Welcome to All Kinds. I'm Kaya.
And I'm Yehudis. So welcome back, guys. This week's episode, we are going to be giving you guys an update on Myka Stauffer, the YouTuber who rehomed, or as we call it, human trafficked her son. We're also going to be talking about Meghan and their latest PR stunt, or is it?
Also, we're going to talk about Ben Mulroney. Is he really ride or die? And he had to step away. We're going to really get into that this week and talk about it because it ties back in with Jessica, who, as you know, is Meghan's BFF. So, girl, let's get right into it.
Yes. So if you guys have been living under a rock, Myka Stauffer made huge fame adopting her son Huxley from China. She put it on YouTube. She was a big YouTuber. She recently came out that she rehomed her son.
Well, hang on. Just so you guys know, she knew the child had special needs. That was the whole thing. And she made a whole big deal how she had, I think, 4 healthy children.
Right.
But she wants to give back. They were very blessed.
Specifically wanted a kid with disabilities.
That's correct. So that's the part about it.
So the task became too hard for her, apparently, and she rehomed, as they called it, to a new family. And there was a petition to find out where's Huxley, because during this time that she rehomed her kid, her adopted kid, Huxley, she was going on vacations in Bali. Mm-hmm. She was still providing YouTube content.
She never said anything. It just looked weird. Like, was the kid kidnapped? Did something terrible happen?
Subscribers kept asking, where's Huxley? Because he really was the star of the show. And don't forget, guys, they made money with Huxley, paid sponsorships with Huxley.
Oh, he was their bread and butter, I mean, essentially. Look how good we are. You know, we were taking in the special needs
I think they owe Huxley that money for that paid sponsorship, anything that he's in, regardless. Ohio, the state of Ohio, recently sent an update today to everyone. It was on BuzzFeed News. It was all over that the son Huxley, he is fine with his new family.
Mm-hmm.
Very happy. And Myka gave an update saying, you know, how sorry she is for how everything turned out, blah, blah, blah. She's a human trafficker. There's no other way to put it. She needs to be in jail.
I think she's back on the YouTube channel, right?
Exactly.
I think she thought, we see this all the time. Somebody does something, you know, obviously lately it's been stars in blackface, and then they do an apology and then they think that absolves them. Oh, you know what? I rehomed my kid. Guys, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Let's move on and let me sell you the shampoo.
Right. And, you know, you can't do that. I mean, she would never give up her other kids, her biological kids, if they had a disability. Of course not. So when you adopt, that is your child, even though it is not biological.
I know. And, you know, some people saying, you know, hey, give her a break. You know, we have to think about what's best for the child, for sure. But she should have thought about what's best for the child. Well, and then maybe not exploit the child. That's where the issue is.
That's where the issue is. She made a whole content. Most of her content was about Huxley. So Huxley, we're very happy that you're safe. We hope. I mean, who knows? You can't believe officials too. I mean, I know there could be some corrupciones.
I would love to know, like, really where he is. I believe that they did the wellness check. They know where he is. Because for a while there, it was touch and go. We're like, did they really give him to somebody? Or where is this
how
kid?
Is Child Protective Services not on Myka Stauffer? How are they absolving her?
They did check her out, too. They did. They said that. They checked the other 4 kids just to make sure there's no abuse or whatever.
Obviously there is. Behind closed doors, it's always the couples, like you've told me that once too, where, you know, you see these couples are super happy on Facebook or social media. They're constantly posting to each other, even if they live together, you know, and they'll say, happy birthday, love of my life. Just say it to her.
My husband finds that so weird. It's like we know this one couple and they'll like post to each other and like, you know, they're both at home. And it's like, oh, that's so funny, sweetie. And oh, yeah, like you're sitting right there.
You know what? I have a confession to make.
You do that?
My 1-year anniversary came up, my wedding anniversary.
It's an anniversary.
So I made my husband, I showed him the photo and I said, you better write a very good message.
Did you write it for him?
No, he wrote it. My husband's a natural romantic because he did write a very good message. You're the love of my life.
But you were sitting right next to him.
Nope. I wasn't sitting. Yeah, he was, you know, he's working.
But I think, okay, fine.
That was an exception.
Anniversaries. Fine, but I'm talking about like one of them was like watching a show and like, oh, you got to check this out. I'm like, are they watching it together?
Oh yeah,
like,
it's so weird.
They're both home.
So I just think the people that are on Facebook always showing, oh, my family, or oh, my son's doing this, my son's doing that, or my husband, you know, look at us picking berries. I just see now they're probably fighting when the pictures,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Well, I know this one couple, and unfortunately, it was an abusive relationship. And what happened was people had only seen their Facebook and how
you would have never guessed if you guys saw their Facebook.
I love you. I
kissing,
love you.
canoodling.
So amazing. So they had this mutual friend who they hadn't seen in a while come to visit with them. And this huge blow up happened where like she left her on the side of the road, and it was shocking. So she came running over to us and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I thought they were so happy. And then we were like, yeah, that's their Facebook. That's not them.
Well, like, what are you even doing? And now, so
you can't trust it. If someone puts out too much of a persona, even if they're not selling anything, don't think you know someone just because of their
right.
Facebook.
And unfortunately, Child Protective Services, they have a lot on their plate. I mean, those kids are getting fed, that they have a bed to sleep in. That's really the bare minimum nowadays.
I think the minimum is like, are they healthy? Are there no marks on them? No abuse? Are they being fed? Do they go to school? Or if not, you
just see this with, especially with, I don't know if you guys remember John and Kate +8, and they portrayed John to be this horrible guy, and Kate was this amazing woman. She's actually turned out to be crazy. She left one of her sons in an institution.
Oh, I thought he was. I never watched the show, but when I read a few articles, it was like he was fighting to not have them on the show.
Right, absolutely,
to give them
because
like
the
privacy.
And the mom was insisting, they want to be on the crew. They miss the crew. Like, that's not healthy. These kids grow up on a Truman Show almost with cameras in their face. And it's the same with Myka's kids. I mean, they're growing up just cameras performing. I mean, it's not healthy. And I can only imagine how the fact that she rehomed her adoptive son, who knows what she's doing to her own kids.
You just don't know when the cameras stop. I mean, how long do they think they can keep this going?
I personally think that, when Huxley was in her care, that, all the kids would get dessert except Huxley.
You think so?
I think she's
like
that
wicked
type of evil.
Stepmother?
Yeah, I think she's
like
that
he
type
was in the attic, like with the little mice?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Poor little Cinderella.
And when
Huxley.
it was time to make the moolah,
they rolled him out?
Yeah.
Clean him up. Pampers. Monthly bath.
Right. Pampers just paid us $100,000 to do this ad. Huxley, get to work.
Do it. Dance, Huxley,
right.
Dance.
Poor
God.
Huxley. Huxley, we're with you.
Yeah. So we wish all the best for you.
So
that's the latest update.
Right.
With Huxley. So I hope everybody has learned a lesson.
What's the lesson?
Well, the lesson is first, don't adopt a child just to exploit them on TV.
Absolutely.
Special needs are serious. If a child is a living being. And if you're Huxley, the lesson is don't trust these Stauffers.
And Huxley, we hope that we hear from you. I mean, if you're
or I hope we don't, and you enjoy a life of privacy and happiness. Okay, she's going to hunt you down. But, that's it.
So moving on is the latest on the royals. So
before we get there, I have to tell you, did you see that in the news? People are shitting on the Queen's house.
Right. So this is the royals.
Yes.
Right. So what's happening? So Queen Elizabeth.
Apparently, you're allowed to tour her vacation homes. I didn't know this.
And where's her? In Balmoral?
I think Balmoral.
Balmoral, Scotland.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Balmoral.
It's so classy.
Well, you know what I mean. You always just picture her with the corgis and whatever, milling about. But they have multiple estates. But either way, people have been traipsing through. There's not much to do, Corona, but they can't go to the bathroom anywhere. So they're just taking a poop, like right on her property, and they're leaving the toilet paper and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And that's how they're finding it. Pictures of wipes and toilet paper. They've asked people, please, if you must go to the loo, please try to do it in a privacy, type area.
Hey,
There's
if you gotta go, but if you gotta go, you gotta open the bathroom.
They can't open the bathroom. I don't think she even has. What are they going to do? Put porta potties on her estate?
Are her corgis eating the poo?
I have no idea, but it's hilarious knowing that people are like, okay, well, let's go poo at the Queen's. What are you doing today, girl? They bring their toilet, but they know this is going to happen. Let's go take a dump on the Queen's lawn.
Can you imagine the workers that have to clean that up? That's just awful.
Well, that's what the taxpayers are for, girl.
Well,
Get that property cleaned.
I mean, I still love the royals, but of course I don't like that my taxes are going to them. But, I love them in the news. And, with Meghan and Harry, their latest one, it's just something seems disingenuous about them.
What have they been up to?
So they were recently volunteering at Homeboy Industries, and it's an actual very good foundation. It's in LA, and it's a charity that gives culinary skills to people who are formerly incarcerated and to former gang members.
So learning how to cook?
learning how to cook, and it's a full-on catering service. Like, they do amazing food and everything.
Did they cook with them? Do they know how to cook?
They
the
gave,
royals?
I guess she participated in it. And the problem is, like, she's in the center of the photo where, you know, Kate's usually, if she is in the center, like, you don't just see her smiling from ear to ear.
It's like a side view. She
right.
happened to be in the center.
She happened to be in the center, where you could tell with Meghan and Harry, it's like, no, we need to get in the center.
It's like framed. It's like,
it's framed.
You go stand there.
And for my royal watchers, everyone has seen where Meghan has basically pushed her way in with Harry numerous times. I'll show you the video,
really?
Girl. Yes, like once they had to sign
she's
something.
Like, move to the side, Harry.
Right. Or, you know, if they're in public and they're talking to other dignitaries, you know, Meghan will interrupt Harry. There's been videos of that.
Oh, really?
And you can't really do that in that type of society.
Oh, Lord. Well, I'm sure they're going to keep making these big faux pas, and I'm sure they're going to piss them off further, because I heard they just got approval to use the Archwell name, which is their son's name, right?
Wow.
For their foundation. So they're going to be selling things off that little, like,
I mean, I'll buy it, but
you're going to buy Archwell goodies?
Yeah, why not? But, you know, it's just admit that you're not this humanitarian. It was like when people believe Princess Diana. Now, I love Princess Di. Don't get me wrong. You know, she touched, you know, people with AIDS when AIDS was such a taboo, but she was no people's princess. Okay. She
Really?
walked away from Prince Charles she took Prince Charles to the cleaners.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She got like 30 million back in the 90s.
I didn't even know, because I know she was with that
dubious,
super rich
Dodi Fayed, you know, dubious people.
So it wasn't like a money issue. Like, I didn't know she fought them for money.
Absolutely. You know, Queen Elizabeth wasn't, you know, the whole family wasn't good to her.
Because Fergie had to hawk some stuff on like QVC, right?
Right. And she was caught bribing.
Right. So she seemed destitute. So how did Diana get all that money?
Because Diana wasn't scared to go on TV, and she publicly said he shouldn't be king.
Oh, the
It's with
tampon
Camilla,
conversation. Yeah,
the
that's what it
tampon.
was. Well, these two are being crafty, because they hired this top-notch speaking agency that, like, all these celebs for speaking engagements. So I'm sure, like, they're not going to hire them. I mean, she's no Michelle Obama.
I'll always respect Meghan's hustle. I don't get, you know, besides that, though, it's embarrassing to be at Tyler Perry's home when you're in a royal family. You know, you should rent your own home. It's not a good look in those circles. Like, to me, don't get me wrong, in my circles, if I'm in Tyler Perry's house, I'm going to call, you know, you or, you know, my brother and be like,
hey, let's see what's going on.
Guess who gave me their house? But if I'm in the royal family, the femme, as they call it.
Oh, yeah, the firm, right? Yeah.
I wouldn't be in Tyler Perry's house.
No, No, I don't think so. But they must know a lot of, like, aristocracy and stuff like that.
That's what I mean. They should have been with other aristocracies, or, you know, maybe stayed at the Johnson & Johnson heir's house.
Yeah, like, doesn't Harry have any type of these connections?
Yeah, well, I think he does. I mean, he did do Invictus Games. He did a lot of good stuff, but you could also tell he's just, you know, he gave up hunting because of Meghan and all these things, which is fine. But
I just don't understand where the Tyler Perry comes from. She's friends with him? Like, she didn't even do a Tyler Perry movie, did she?
Well, no. And
where did
I guess,
he come from?
Well, it's in both their interests to be.
No, I understand. But why Tyler Perry? Why not Steven Spielberg or some other person? You know what I mean?
I guess it looks good as well. Like, in, you know.
That's what she's doing. She's with Tyler Perry. Maybe she'll be in his next movie, for all we know. Medea and Meghan.
Medea and Meghan.
You know?
So that's, you know, what's happening with them.
Well, let me interrupt you, because we got a commercial break. Oh, yes. This episode has been brought to you by Flushable Baby Wipes. Think you're clean? Think again. Nothing is fresher than a wipe. Whether for a hoe bath or preparing for the back door, nothing compares to having a handy moist wipe ready. Great for people of all ages and cleaning all sorts of things. Don't skid around and get your wipes today. And we're back.
That's a great commercial. You know why? Because
it's true.
I don't understand people don't use wipes after taking number 2. You need some type of absorbent.
It's the cleanest thing. You know, they say the best is the hand in the water. I just can't do that.
I would love a bidet.
The bidets have really taken
electronic,
off.
like the Japanese ones.
They're very expensive. Like, some of those toilet seats are like $800.
It's worth it if you have the money.
The problem is, when you have one of those toilet seats, you don't want to get off. And you know how you like to use the facilities at work? So imagine you had one of these heated, like, massagey toilet seats. You're never going to get off.
Well, you told me something at work. What did you say? Because I used to be nervous about taking a number 2 at work. And what did you say, Chaya?
Nothing beats getting paid to poop.
That is true. So now I make sure to poop at work.
You know, you're like, that's right. In the old days, you'd bring like a newspaper so they would know. But now, forget it. You got your phone. They have no idea what you're doing.
No, and I sometimes vape a little bit in the bathroom.
I always bring my vape.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta, it's a little break.
Absolutely.
So getting back to, the meat of this podcast, we're going to be talking about Ben Mulroney. So last week we talked about, was it last week or 2 episodes ago? God, we have so many.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where we talked about Jessica Mulroney, how she stepped down. Well, she was fired from a lot of places after she threatened a social media influencer, Sasha Exeter.
Right. So yeah, you guys remember the story. Basically, she posted Black Lives Matter. Sasha is Black. And Jessica took that as a personal threat and threatened her livelihood. Then when it came to light, like Sasha posted all this, she essentially apologized and everyone thought, okay, cool. But then she hit Sasha with a private message saying, I'm going to sue your ass, essentially.
Right. Libel suit, good luck.
But now her husband, Ben, for those who don't know, he's like royalty here. Even though the royalty angle, Jessica being besties with Meghan,
right? Ben
is royalty here because his dad was a very successful prime minister and he got his job. I'm sure he feels on his own merits.
As they do.
As they do. I'm sure he feels he worked very hard. But he's like a leading entertainment figure. He hosts eTalk Live, does all the Oscar events and things like eTalk Live, does all the Oscars, red carpets.
He's our everywhere. Canadian, celebrity news.
Yeah. So I don't know how you compare him. He's like our Ryan Seacrest.
Right. He really is. He also has that weird plasticky face, just like Ryan does.
That's right. And so his wife is Jessica. So tell us what happened this week,
So this is what I find crazy. So he stepped down because obviously he had to. We can't. I mean, you are who you marry as well, for the most part. I mean, excluding those in abusive relationships, obviously.
100%.
But he's obviously like that, too. You could tell he's got...
Well, he is privileged.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he stepped down. But he's still doing red carpets. But he said that he will be stepping down from eTalk because I want someone to replace me who is Indigenous or Black or just a person of color. Definitely not white like me and privileged like me. But I will still be doing the red carpets.
So the fun bits.
So this is how he thinks the commoners like us are dumb. You couldn't do eTalk. You still wanted to do the fun bits, but you wanted to, again, play out a white savior. Like, oh, but I made sure to, get replaced by someone who's Black or, Indigenous.
Out of the goodness of his heart.
And it's really bitchy to do that because now this token diversity hire is going to be like, great, I'm a token diversity hire. There's going to be so much more pressure on them.
Oh, yeah.
To say, they, and who goes into a job saying, I was hired because I'm Black or I was hired because I'm Indigenous.
Not even that. Like, you're stepping down, okay? You don't get to dictate.
Absolutely.
Who are you? Imagine you're like a quit or you get fired from your job and you're like, I'm leaving, but you must replace me with X, Y,
of that.
Yeah.
I'm on.
Like, who does that? Like, he doesn't get it.
And just say you're stepping down. He's
forced out. Come on.
But you don't have to seem like, a white savior. That's what they don't want. They are tired of the white saviors.
He tries to act like he's just chill and whatever. But I was reading this week, this co-host of his, Lucy or Lisa, I don't know, I don't watch the show, but she was saying how it's like everyone is scared of them. And I read this article from the Globe and Mail. One of the columnists said this week, a few years ago, she had done an article, just a fun piece, who are the most irritating or annoying Canadians. And it was a fun joke. And he came in number 1 or 2. And the other celebrities who were on this, were joking about it, emailed her ha, ha, ha. They got the joke, except not him. They heard from his father.
Ooh,
somebody else in the government
is the prime minister of Canada. So that's powerful. That's like the president of the U.S. calling a columnist a celebrity.
Of the Globe and Mail. It's like an established newspaper here. She was like,
fluff piece.
And they were not having it. And he's like a fluffy entertainment person at the time.
It's crazy. And it just brings me back, I was on Twitter and about Lena Dunham with Girls. And she basically, got a show at 23 after pitching for only 20 minutes, while Issa Rae from the show Insecure basically had to have a whole 2 years of, putting her show on YouTube before finally getting picked up.
And I'm sure she had to still do presentations and she had to convince
them
that there's an audience for it and they're this and that.
And all the girls on the cast are all well-connected. Lena comes from highly successful art curators. I mean, to even be an art curator, I
don't know anything.
Darling, to have that.
Sounds like Charlotte from Sex and the City.
You have to be rich, okay, to have that as your living.
To curate your art.
And, a lot of these other ones, there's Josiah Mehmet, whose father is an award-winning, screenwriter. So it just shows you the privilege that's at place, which I wouldn't mind if they weren't so self-righteous in their own.
Oh, that's fine, but
that's where it gets me. Right. Like, I don't mind, like, Lisa Marie Presley. I think she should be famous.
Good for her.
Right. But Lisa Marie Presley doesn't also dictate how many morals I should have.
Or harass other people trying to make it, like what happened with Sasha,
Absolutely. And that's the difference. Lena Dunham, in my opinion, is gross. I'm sorry. She's done many things. I don't know anything about her. And this Ben Mulroney, I mean, to play yourself off as a selfless person, listen, you had to quit because you had to quit.
And you're not going to tell us who's replacing you.
And you still get to keep your red carpet, all the best bits. Why don't you let the new person have it?
Yeah. I also noticed on this, from a character's perspective, I don't know if you agree with me, but I found it was strange that he doesn't mention, like, he has to quit because of the whole scandal with his wife. And he's not ride or die with her at all. He doesn't say...
Awful.
He says, we have a lot to learn, but he doesn't acknowledge her, and he doesn't say, I love my wife, she made a mistake. No.
He said, I can't speak for my wife. I mean, at this point...
He drove the bus right over her.
You had the camera. Yeah. I would expect my husband to be like, listen, what my wife did... We all know what was wrong, but I love her. She's my wife. She has a good heart.
Work on this.
And we're working on it. I mean, she was just caught up in the moment. It wasn't right. We would have been like, you know what? Fine.
I was like, oh no, he just drove that bus right over her.
He was like, I can't speak for my wife.
He's like, now I'm stepping away and I'm going to pick who I want. And basically, it's all your fault, bitch. That's what I got.
And it's awful. And you see how they're probably like in private.
You think they'll divorce in a couple of years?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, listen, they've both got tons of money anyway. And I'm sure if there's enough of a backlash, if he's going to be doing his red carpet, that's a dangerous position for him to be in. Because if people remember this, and I think people are going to be remembering now, everyone's not as forgiving anymore.
Right. And it's like, again, it's fine if you have privilege, but don't be so self-righteous at the same time.
And don't get in somebody else's way.
Absolutely. Like, J.K. Rowling recently had a stir, as everyone knows, because she was saying, there's a saying now saying trans women are women. But that is a belief. It does not make you transphobic if you don't believe that.
But that's the whole dilemma. People feel that it does make you, and it makes it harmful.
So that's where we're never going to understand
this whole controversy.
That's where because I respect trans women, but you're not women.
But that's what they say is hurtful. See, the problem is, you got the trans being killed still, right? So they don't have basic human rights. So they feel you can't really have a discussion because it could be harmful and people will use anything they can to still keep hurting them.
But I am a woman, and to me that matters. I am a woman, okay? And trans women were not born women.
Well,
and that is a fact. That's not transphobic. And again, I will accept them. If Caitlyn Jenner or if anyone were to say, hey, I'm a trans woman, no problem. But if they want me to put their beliefs, and if I don't believe exactly what they believe.
Well, if we're going to get into this, so I know what happened, and I'm trying to make sense of it because you can't seem to get a conversation going. I just see a lot of mud being thrown both ways. I'm like, okay, so what did she do that was wrong? So first off, she tweeted something. There was an article that came out that said people who menstruate. So she started to kick this off by saying,
I wonder who gets those menstruations.
Women, that's who.
Right.
So she feels it's women are being erased and everything. It's
absolutely
another, women's rights. And, so then everyone shat on her. Then they took it to the next level because she published a personal essay. She talked about how she was assaulted and she was saying how if someone can just say some guy can say, okay, well, I'm trans now, and then go into her bathroom and rape her or something. Right? But they have to be
as it also has some legal ramifications. I mean, if let's say you have a police officer who is a trans woman and she could legally, that trans woman can do body searches on me.
Right. But here's the issue, though. They're saying they don't even have rights. They're not even there yet in the discussion.
Well, I don't want them there. I mean, if I have to do a body search, if I'm in a vulnerable position by the police.
That's sort of what JK is sort of saying. She didn't mention body searches, but she's saying that she's saying, I'm a trans ally, but trans women are trans women. They're not women.
I don't want them getting killed. Exactly. I like what Flame Monroe, the comedian, said. I completely agree with her. She's trans. And she says, I am trans, but I fully am aware that, I was not born a woman.
Right.
And I can't project that onto other women.
Right. The problem is there's a lot of both sides of this, but the problem is it's getting really nasty.
It gets nasty where she's getting
You can't
canceled.
have a discussion.
She wasn't disrespectful. All she's saying is women get periods.
So now all I see is if I look up J.K. Rowling, everyone's like transphobe. And I'm like, what did she say? And I'm trying to understand the conversation. I'm like, so she's saying I like trans. And then the worst is, hold on, you didn't hear this. So after she published that big essay, this newspaper, I think it was The Sun, they tracked down her ex-husband who had physically abused her.
Oh, that was horrible.
Oh my God. And then they published an interview of him saying, I slapped her and I'm not sorry. Something like that.
I mean, again, it's real women ramifications. We see this with, in high school in Connecticut, there was, trans teenagers. They were competed on, track and field, and the trans women won. And the female students said, I'm sorry, this isn't fair.
Yeah, I think in sports, it's still very, very dicey.
And it doesn't mean you're transphobic if you're not trying to exclude them, but it's sometimes.
She's saying that there's a physical reality. The male and female have different anatomy when they're born.
Absolutely.
So men have a greater upper body musculature.
And we can't ignore
Women
that.
lay down fatty tissue. I don't know how far hormones have come in that sense to lay down the tissue. So women get tissue all over their body and around their organs, versus men who only get it around their organs, and they have a stronger...
Well, that's also just biology. I mean, again, I don't want trans people dying, but I also don't want them erasing me.
Yeah, so I feel like until everyone gets human rights, if we can't have discussions, then it's going to hurt all causes.
But if they're human rights, to say trans women are
Nobody
women,
can
I'm going to have an issue.
No.
That's not a human right.
To say or believe anything.
Absolutely.
Nobody can do
and the
that.
same. So, JK, you know what? I actually support your freedom of speech and your opinion. I don't think you're a transphobe. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, from what I read, it's very difficult because when you read it from a woman, you're just like, what's wrong with what she's saying? And then when you look at it, they say, okay, well, these things always harm us.
I would be very offended if and I did see an article recently where it said people who get pregnant. Who gets pregnant?
Right. So there was a case.
Women get pregnant. So I'm sorry, not people who get pregnant.
So this is what happened. There was a case, I think it was in England, where somebody had trans, but they kept their uterus and they had a child. And what happened was they wanted to change the name on the birth certificate from mother to father. They lost the case. They're appealing it because the judge said, mother isn't necessarily a woman. Mother is someone who gives birth. You gave birth. That makes you the mother. So they're still fighting it, and they say it's transphobic. I'm like, well, unless we're going to come up with a new word, I want everyone to have the rights and everything like that. But you also can't expect that everyone suddenly switches on a dime.
Well, we can't have people being scared to voice conflicting opinions, not transphobic. I'm talking about real transphobic opinions. We all know deep down that J.K. Rowling is not a transphobe for what she said.
You know who's a transphobe.
Right. Yeah. You know in your gut. So let's not attack people who just have a different opinion on it.
Yeah, and if she has a different opinion and you disagree with it, that's my biggest issue with the whole thing. People are learning about these issues. They can't expect that everyone knows about every issue.
Absolutely.
Especially if it's not something that's in your life. People tend to know what they're about.
But I'm allowed to believe trans women are trans women.
You can believe whatever you want, and nobody
I'm allowed
should be
to
mad at
believe
you.
that, right? And it doesn't make me a transphobe. I don't need a whole cancel all kinds podcast or cancel.
I'm sure they're going to want to after our discussion. I'm sure we stepped on many lines. But,
absolutely.
At the end of the day, we're saying that why can't you have a discussion? And if something is coming into the mainstream, you're allowed to discuss it.
We're allowed to have discussiones.
There's no more discussioning.
No.
No more. No está. No aquí. But yeah, so that debate is still raging, by the way.
Well, we're going to keep you updated, but I stand with JK on this.
Yeah. So right now, I feel like she has every right to express an opinion, and they have every right to express theirs.
To cancel her, to vilify her. I don't think that should be a right.
And then she published this whole personal essay, and I can't get over the Sun publishing her abuser.
I mean, that's does that not get any heyday?
Yeah. And I think you need to understand that everybody's not going to think the same things all the time. And they're coming from their own experiences. As long as people aren't trying to hurt anyone, which she says that over and over. But,
this canceling, is Mrs. Doubtfire now offensive?
Yeah, apparently that's very offensive.
That was my favorite movie. I don't think Robbie Williams is a transphobe.
No, I got to say, girl, I'm thinking about all the movies we watched. I'm like, uh-oh. They're very problematic.
I'm sorry. I will show my future kids Mrs. Doubtfire. It's a great movie.
Yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire was considered a very homey kids movie.
Absolutely. It was hilarious because, he's not imitating a trans woman. And I think that's where he's imitating an older woman. And we find that funny.
Well, I always had issues with it just because how do you not know that's your husband?
Well, he's very good at voice.
Yeah, but look at him.
Well,
imagine Nadav did that tomorrow. He shows up and he's like, I'm a lady now. You're going to be like, I know it's you, babe.
Well, it was a movie, girl. But,
I'm here from England to watch your children. You'll be like, babe. And then
I'm completely for Gone with the Wind because it obviously showed a horrible portrayal of it wasn't even realistic.
But it's like pop-up video. I like that they're going to put historical context and everything.
Right. I mean, but, we're not idiots. We know that clearly not how it went down.
Yeah. I mean, it depends how you looked at it. I mean, I remember when I watched the movie, I was like, slavery was terrible. I wasn't focusing on that. I was just like, I'm like, oh, so people who watch this think slavery was fine? Like,
right. And it's just,
I'm like, what? I mean, this lady's clearly just like a slave, this Mamie person. I don't know nothing about birth and no babies. I'm like, it's not flattering. Clearly,
No.
You get that watching it. You're like, please, But apparently for some people, they just didn't see any of that.
Well, this was a really good. We'll definitely keep you guys updated on everything.
Yes, controversial or not, as you know, you guys can see it for yourself. But if you like what you hear, don't forget to check us out weekly on iTunes or on your preferred platform. Please give us a rating and subscribe to the show. Give us the stars you think we deserve.
And check out our website at allkindspodcast.com. You can also hit us up on Twitter at allkindsweekly or on Instagram at allkindspodcast. We look forward to hearing from you, and maybe we can discuss it on our next show. Thanks for listening.